You so very much for joining us on your Wednesday afternoon interactive talk program right here on 102.7 1300. That, of course, is a standing medium that is used throughout the ages, still is. And by extension, now we are streaming this program live on TV Carib as well as on Facebook. So, those of you who would like to see the live stream and be able to see the faces behind the conversation, you can do so. If you do have data on your handheld device, you can just go to tvcarib.com and there's an indication that you can listen live. That's exactly where you have to click in order for you to be able to get in. Or you can go to my website. If you've never been there, it is CMOORE, CMOOREJOURNAL, CMOORejournal.com. And when that page opens, right at the top, there is a banner that says Live with Wendell Moore. You can just click on that and you'll be able to see the faces or those who are involved in the conversation. I do know that this is drive time, and most of you who are watching or listening is doing so while you're heading home or maybe heading out to work, whichever way. It's good to know that you're with us. All right. Now our attention is turned towards our guest for today, who happens to be Angel Roberto Richardson. And he, of course, has just recently dropped an article in the Daily Herald about something that concerns him a lot, that has to do with funds that is in place for the Dutch Caribbean in particular, and that of course includes Suriname, because of the slavery issue that, of course, the Dutch has been spending some money on as an attempt at least to address a long-standing issue. And there have been some funds made available for cultural awareness and slavery. It's a grant. It's not a loan. But because of our failure to push these projects, I believe Curaçao have done their part and they have taken full advantage of what was made available to them. So have Aruba and Suriname. And this gentleman who is here with me today is going to tell us that sadly, we don't have the means to be able to take advantage of that anyway. I've laid a foundation as to what exactly would be the issue before us this afternoon on In the View. Mr. Roberto Richardson, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Wendell. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. But, before I get into what I really want to talk about, I saw that you put something in front of me on the table. If I may, I'm going to have to expose it.
What's that?
You placed a book in front of me, and I want you to just talk about this a little bit. It's like I'm interviewing you right now quickly, because this is very dear to my heart. It speaks about the Constitution of St.Maarten. We have it in in copy form in the what we call the Constitution of St.Maarten, as well as the Dutch form, which is the original format in the Staatsregeling van St.Maarten. And what I saw is that you place it in a book format right here. I'm sure the viewers can see it who are streaming live. And it really moved me. I'm really impressed with this, and I have to tell you.
Oh, you are?
Congrats. Yes, because separate to the, let's say, the print, let's say, from the Constitution that we all have in A4 format or whatever, in our house somewhere lying, you have made a book in it. You have hard copy, and you have, and I want to say I'm very proud.
You're jumping ahead of me.
I know. You know what? I'm just.
But
so am I doing something
it's not ready? Well, I'm not. Listen. I take great pride. I take great pride in having this ready. I'm just waiting until they get here so that I just launched. That's all.
You just didn't have to put it in front of me, because you know what? If you put it in front of me, you put it in front of the people of St.Maarten. So I'm gonna just expose it.
Okay.
Because it's something good. But anyway, thank you very much again, Wendell. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, because I enjoy our conversations, because it is about giving information to the people of St.Maarten, educating them, and also as well talking about vision for country, talking about where we came from historically, where we are now present, and where we are going in the future. And that's why I always keep talking about. And I have to say thank you very much to one of my mentors, Dr. Anders Leopold James, about nation building, the whole concept of nation building being the embodiment of everything that we talk about in terms of development of any country. And so I have been supporting and championing nation building with him because I would say it is the book
Yeah.
that represents all of the components of a country in terms of its development, past, present, and future.
I can also add, because I'm aware of what he has been doing, that he's one of the pillars when it comes to nation building. Just so happen that we don't put enough emphasis there. And while you were talking about the Constitution, there are some symbols in there that are
Yes.
relevant to nation building that
Exactly,
that
yeah.
is also incomplete. You know? And I wonder if we are serious about building a nation called St.Maarten without taking these things into consideration. They're so important.
Because when you say that to whether because my mind keep going quickly. I move from here to there because I'm a very creative thinker and a quick thinker because I see things. And when I look back, sorry that I have to talk about the book. I see the book as an educational tool for the people of St. Maarten, our young people in particular too. That from young they understand the Constitution and can be explained every article of the Constitution, what it details, what it entails. I can see it in the classrooms, for example. I can see it as a handbook for the ministries of government. I can see it in different organizations. So I can see this. I have to congratulate you again because I can see this going very, very far. And and why I talked about the nation building is because what we're going to talk about today, it touches on that because where we are today, we cannot forget about where we came from. And one of the topics that I'm here to talk to you about is that whole the Slavery Past Initiative, funds that have become available, that has come available then since 2025. So it's a program of funds that became available throughout the years of 2025 to 2028, and it has been the Dutch government by way of the Interior Affairs and Kingdom Relations, Binnenlandse Zaken, BZK, as it is formatted in Dutch. They made these funds available as a grant, and it started back in 2022 when the then Prime Minister Mark Rutte, he on behalf of the government, the kingdom government, apologized for the slavery past. And you might say, yeah, it's too little, too late, whatever. But you know what? We can lament about the past and live in the past, while we won't forget. We can't forget where we came from as slaves. That's for sure not. We will sure not have it repeat itself. But because of where we came from, we keep that in the back of our heads, and we develop knowing where we come from. Because this, as well as His Majesty Prince Willem Alexander, he also apologized on behalf of the kingdom as well. And so these funds, 200 million euros, were made available. 100 million. It was divided in two aspects, in two parts. One part 100 million, and the other part 100 million, and then that it was divided into three countries or three areas of the Dutch kingdom. The past kingdom partner, Suriname, which was part of the Dutch kingdom back then. So they have rights to the slavery funds, and that's why they are part of the distribution of the funds. And then you have the Dutch Caribbean countries and entities, which are the 6 islands of the former Netherlands Antilles, now countries and entities. And then the other category is the Netherlands itself. So funds are also earmarked for them as well. And then it is divided into a category that governments of these countries would identify priority areas and projects. And then it's divided also through foundations and small organizations, and more preferably, I would like to say the grassroots organization and the people of St. Maarten, for them to be able to tap into these funds to do small projects that speaks about the slavery history past and how we move forward. I'm going to stop there, let you jump in quickly.
Yeah, well, jumping in there is just to make one important point, which I think this whole conversation would be hinged on, and that is this money that was made available, it seems like Suriname, Curacao, Aruba, they are bringing projects forward to make use of these funds that is important to these individual countries. But sadly, we don't seem to have any projects to be able to tap into these funds. And you cited in the article that you have dropped, because I read it, I took the time to read it, that sadly we don't have the type of resources, human resource, to be able to put these projects forward so that we can make use of this money. And if we don't use it, I know from history, the chances are that we may just lose out.
You know, Wendell, we have the human resources. St. Maarten has a lot of professionals, not only in government, but in the private sector. People who know how to write projects because they're formatted very simple. But still, while they're simple, you have to follow procedures to get them written and get the funds to who they're supposed to go to. And that is the people of St. Maarten and those specifically who have history, slavery past history by way of their ancestors. Not only that, you know, there's a lot of programs and awareness because education is one area of the museums, you know, protecting our museums and enhancing things that would put us in memory of our slavery past. But the subject matter of, let's say, education and awareness and museums and all of that is very broad. So you can create a lot of projects from that. But the point I want to get back to is that one of the things that
before you do that, let me correct myself then.
Yeah.
We may have the resources, but I wonder if we are exploiting what is available.
Exactly. That is, you see, what happens is that a lot of times, and that's why I like to come on programs such as this, Wendell, to inform and educate the people of St. Maarten, because the question is do the people of St. Maarten in totality know about these opportunities? And I would say that not enough, because if they knew, they would be able to tap into. But at the same time too, while they may know, when you are saying that the way to tap in is specifically separate to the government funds being available, and they have in their ministries to be able to carry out and their professionals within the ministries to carry out the program or the projects in the community by way of foundations and small organizations. They don't have the ability to write these small, even if it's 3 or 4 pages of a project file that has to be formatted the right way. So we as responsible people who are the ones that are in charge of these fundings, we have to assist, we have to help, we have to educate, we have to put in place structures where where the people of St. Maarten are able to come to us, and not online. I keep saying that, while we are moving forward, with technology and all that, not everybody wants to go online. Some people are intimidated. For sure, the older people are intimidated when they have to go online to search. So they say, you know what, I ain't going on this online thing, so I'm gonna pass it by.
Abandon it.
So abandon it. So, but in Curacao, or let's say Aruba or Suriname, they have their organizations where they have a lot of professionals working in these or serving in these foundations, and they know how to write project files. I had a discussion with one of my friends, and he originated from the Netherlands. So I'm talking about a Dutch professional who works in St. Maarten for over the last 2-3 decades. So he knows the culture, knows that, because he knows project writing and all that. And one of the things that he knows is that sometimes we don't do our homework, and that's where we fall through the crack. And he said the same. He said it's going to be a missed opportunity again, but the program continues. There are various programs, and they have their shut-off date. This one that I responded to is because we were given 2 extra weeks to be able to tap in on this particular funding that was available. If we have tapped in, if we have used that opportunity in the 2 weeks. Look, if nothing has happened, Wendell, it's impossible for you to be able to put projects together in 2 weeks.
Because
as a professional, I can tell you that's impossible. It's like saying, St. Maarten, you have missed out. So sorry, we're gonna move on, and we may probably take those funds and use it for something else because the Dutch is giving it to us. And they're saying whoever's going to make use of it is where we're gonna put it because we wouldn't want to take it back because it belongs to the people and the people who came from back in the slavery past. Those are the people who have to tap into these funds, and we want to make sure that it gets in their hands in whatever way. And that is unfortunately the situation. And I know that there was an umbrella body, a proposal that was submitted to act as a sort of and that is why too. And I'm sorry that I'm talking so very quickly. That is why when the trust fund was put in place, Wendell, and the trust fund not only put the funding was not only put in place, the 500 million euros with the World Bank managing the fund, but they had the NRPB, the bureau where Clark Connor is heads, and they have the professionals who prepare the projects. So you have the vision of the countries, you have the priority areas, you establish the programs, and then the projects are then developed. And the projects are developed by professionals in NRPB that make sure that the funds are being used applicably within the period that they're earmarked for. In this case, with these funds for the Slavery Past Initiative, there is no, let's say, NRPB, there is no umbrella body to manage and assist foundations who would want to participate and get help, whether it's a $5,000 or 10,000 guilders or what have you. And that I find a pity, to be honest.
Yeah. The Slavery Past Initiative, though, I believe there might have been some people who made an attempt to tap into those funds with small projects, but it's quite some money that has been made available. And I wonder if we ourselves have any proposed ideas as to what we can do with this money. The library is a different kind of project, but that is educational, and something like that, if it's even an extended arm, you have the museums, you have all these other things that I believe you can use to tap into these funds. But writing the initiative proposal, that's where the bottleneck is.
That's where the bottleneck is, because I'll tell you this: when you look at St.Maarten slavery past is different than Curacao or different than Aruba.
Correct.
If you want to talk about the slavery past of St.Maarten, for example, you talk about our monuments, and then you talk about, let's say, for example, the slave walls that divides our succession lands, for example. We see all by the Emilio Wilson, and a lot of properties, their boundaries have been established by the slave walls, for example.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful.
Those are ideas you're saying.
Those are just some ideas that I'm saying. And why I use those is because we can get, let's say, young people who are unemployed. Let's say they're school dropouts and so, and they're looking for something to do. They want to work. They want an income. And these foundations can, let's say, recruit by way of the funding, whether it's 5 or 10,000 or 15,000 made available to them, for example, to do a project, let's say on the let's say the redevelopment of slave walls, for example, which is part of our history. Because there's so, the Emilio Wilson, I saw a lot of other areas too. We have that, but it can empower the people. It can employ the young people, the St. Maarten young people, and that's one of the areas you can tap in. You have the educational system. You have the schools. They have their programs in which they can bring about awareness in terms of the history of slavery, but also in terms of the museums and what have you. But there are a lot of creative ways. If you have a body that sits, just like how I'm speaking with you on this program, Wendell, to the people of St. Maarten, everybody knows what they have or what they are good at, what they can do, that they can fit into being able to tap into these fundings. But the point is, how do they tap in? And that is why a proposal, an official proposal was made to government, to those who are responsible for the funding, and saying a body, an umbrella body, an institution can be established that can manage it like a project bureau that can help these various foundations, not government, because government have their ministries, help these foundations to be able to help them put together their projects with their budgets and get them financed, and managed so that they're able to execute and they're able to be empowered with such projects that they have on the table sitting for probably for years. And that is something that I find that Wendell is sadly falling through the cracks.
So chances are, in your view, do you think we'll be able to make use of these funds?
Yes.
Because it's extended now, you said.
No. Well, there are different categories of fundings, and they have a shut-off points.
Okay.
So let's say they have a program for 3-6 months. I'm using an example, and it has a shut-off point. They have another. So because you're dividing, because like I said, it's 200 million, then 100 million is made available to the 3 countries. That is divided into 1/3, and then you have 33 point something million euros goes to the Netherlands. 33.3 million goes to, let's say, to Suriname. 33.3 million goes to the Dutch Caribbean countries. And then from that 33.3 million, you have projects. 1/2 goes to the government. The government identify their priority areas in education, awareness, and museums. And then you have the foundations who tap it in. So let's say you have fundings that you can tap into 5 million. I'm just using an example, 5 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for these, so things like that. But somebody, an institution, and that is there sitting on it. It doesn't matter if someone says, hey, you know what? This is not working. Let's look at, because I personally have spoken to a lot of professionals who I know will be able to assist, but they're consultants, they're professionals, they have to be paid. When the World Bank came into the trust, the World Bank gets 15% of the 500 million. So they are paid for their service. 15% from 500 million is 65 million euros that they are paid. So of course, with 65, you can pay your professionals, you can pay the NRPB, you have the budget for that. So what we call it, the voorbereidingskosten. So that is my expertise in my profession. So if you have those funds reserved, then you're going to get the professionals coming in because they're going to be paid, and then they'll be of service to the people of St.Maarten. In this case, the grassroots, or the people of the foundations, who will be able then to get assistance to be able to tap into the funds that are being given as a grant.
Okay, let's turn the coin a little bit, because all of this are playing when it comes to some of the most active people in our communities. You know that there are people who have little interest in even tapping into this fund, simply because they have a complete different frame of mind when it comes to dealing with the Dutch. Most people are talking about when it comes to the apology for slavery. Some of them are saying that's not enough retribution or some sort of payback for what have happened in the past.
Yes.
Is what they might be looking at, rather than an outside remote situation where the Dutch feels that they are obligated in response to slavery past to make these funds available so that we can come up with their own creative ideas. Because in Holland, I believe they're building a monument of some kind. That's their version, or that's their way of dealing with the issue.
Yeah, because they're using their funds, Wendell. They're using their funds and doing what they have to do in the Netherlands. You understand?
So there's funds made available for these countries. And I'm wondering, for those who know about accessing these funds, why aren't we speeding up projects to be able to take advantage of it before we lose it?
Not everybody. There are those. I don't want to get into assumptions and so, but there are those who are tapping into the funds. There are those who are tapping the funds, and when I speak of those, they might not be those who really should have the first priority, because of their slavery history in terms of being their ancestors and all of that. But their foundations that are being established. Once your foundation is established in the country, you can tap in. And so you won't know if that foundation is established a year ago or 6 months ago or 2 years ago, and they tap in, they go online, and they qualify based on the condition and the criteria, they would get the funds. So they will tap in, they will get it. But let's say the St. Maarten people who would want to get funding and they just don't know how to go about it. And they feel discouraged because they don't want to go online.
So who are the ones to make this information available as to what projects can bring forward so that they can inspire to take some initiatives and get something
And
started?
the people who have been appointed, because there was a committee appointed by the Ministry of Kingdom Relations, and they appointed a representative for every one of these countries. So Suriname has its representative, St. Maarten has a representative, Curaçao has a representative, and Saba Station, all of them in the Netherlands has a representative. And they are the people who are the ones that should take the lead and understand the realities and the culture and makeup of their own country in order to make the program successful for them.
And privileges too. Don't leave that out, because it's a privilege for us to have access to these funds that we wouldn't have had access to otherwise.
And of course, Wendell, I'm here. Look, I work in the cabinet of the Minister of Finance. It's no secret. It has nothing to do with that. I'm here as a St. Maarten. I'm here as someone that's very much concerned for the people of St. Maarten. That's why I'm doing this, and I take responsibility. I'm here not here to talk about anything else than the people of St. Maarten and this opportunity that's there. I don't want to talk about reparation and all of that. Talk about billions of guilders or dollars that we will die in the next generation. We still wouldn't tap into that. I'm talking about what we can do now for our people right now, Wendell, for our children right now, that can take us to the next level. So if it means that what we can get now can get our children to become more efficient, to become more productive, or to become more educated in their land, so be it. Because if it starts with 200 million and it moves then to 300 million, and then it gets to 400 million, and then before you know it, over a program of 10 years, we would have gotten 2 billion euros in this. Who knows? We don't know now. We don't know yet, but it may be so that the program will continue over a 3-year period, and we'll get to the amount that we are hoping that it will come to. But for us to be looking at something that is almost impossible and then get nothing is not fair to our younger generation, who doesn't really understand what's going on.
You made mention of remote idea of the slave walls, and I'll get back to that.
One example.
I'll get back to that and throw some ideas out as to what could be the possibilities. But again, that key person who was designated to be responsible, I don't know who it is, so you might be able to help us, when it comes to somebody who may want to fall in line with what would be proposed, especially with the slave wall issue. We'll talk with that, though. We'll talk about that right after we take a break. Let me take the break first, and then when we come back, we'll jump straight into that conversation. This is In the View, with yours truly, Wendell Moore, Wednesday afternoon. Taking a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue. Your Wednesday afternoon interactive talk program right here on 102.7. Of course, we're streaming live on TV Carib as well as on Facebook. You can reach us just about anywhere. Roberto Richardson is my guest for this afternoon, and of course, he is talking about some cultural awareness projects, and some of which is and can be linked to Slavery Past and the Slavery Past initiative, which some funds have been made available for St. Maarten. He feels that we are not fully exploiting the opportunity to tap into these funds. And let me start the second half by asking him whether, you wrote the article, and for anyone who have read it, I hope they would get the feeling that if they approach you on a possible idea that they might have, or if they are looking for some type of clarity as to what exactly would fit into this, if you would be willing to make information available to them. Or I know you said also that there is someone designated on each of the countries in the partners in the kingdom, which means one is also designated for St. Maarten. Maybe you can
Absolutely.
refer them to that
Yeah,
person.
yes. The person, I mean, it's no secret. The person is Miss Clara Reyes. She was a former head of the Department of Culture in the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports. She's not with the government of St. Maarten anymore. But separate to that, she does not represent the government of St. Maarten on that committee. She was appointed at that committee by Kingdom Relations, the BZK office of the Dutch government, just like the other countries, and so she knows the procedure, she knows everything. But the point I want to make it, that's why I'm out here, Wendell, because look, as a St. Martin, knowing a lot of how things work, I've worked with project development and project planning and all that, and I know how it works. I know the bureaucracy, but I also know the realities of St. Martin. And those of us who know, we need to step up. I have stepped up. Those who I've spoken to know that I've spoken to them, and I said, I am willing to help because right now, I'm not going to use an example. I'm going to close to home for me. My granddaughter of 2 years old, she lives with me, Wendell. And her mom, who lives with us as well, she left back to go to England for her studies. She's doing her master's in international relations. She's gonna complete that in the fall of this year. And when I see my granddaughter, every morning she wakes up and she said, "Papa, Daddy, Opa, Grandpa." And she runs to me and I look at her and I say, if I as a St. Martin, I as her past, her generation back. If I cannot do my part, which I know I have a lot that I can give to prepare them because they don't know what's going on, that from that angle is where I'm coming from, Wendell, because all of us have a responsibility to the next generation that we can pass on and that we can prepare them for, because the St. Martin that is ahead of, if we don't steer and protect St. Martin for our people, it's going to be taken over by people that knows nothing about history of St. Maarten. And what they're going to do, they're going to push themselves aside. And that is why it is so important whether the most qualified person could be someone from China or the United States of America or the Netherlands or whatever. I believe that it behooves us as a responsible people, if we're talking nation building, to make sure that we put the St. Maarten people in the positions of decision making so that they can protect St. Maarten for the St. Maarten people. Because if you put people on the outside and put them in the position, they're going to create it and develop it for their own people. And then it leaves us outside of the development in our own country. And sadly so, that's what I'm seeing. And that is why I come to these platforms. And it's not political, it's nothing like that. It has to do with love for your country, wanting to protect your younger generation, wanted to protect the legacy, wanted to protect the vision and the direction that St. Maarten needs to continue going into, and that is why I'm doing this. If someone was to call me right after this program, even on this program, and say, "Akin, what can you do?" Oh man, I'll sit down. I'll run it to them and tell them exactly what it, because St. Maarten has a different makeup, Wendell. It's a different makeup. We have to understand that, but the people who are coming in, they don't know that. We have to tell them that we're not like Curacao, or we're not like Aruba, or we're not like the Netherlands, or we're not like Suriname. This is St. Maarten. How can we help you? This is the angle that we have to take it to help the St. Maarten people. Right now, it is. We are in 1 year into this program. It runs out 2028. We can salvage Wendell. We can do it good. We can restructure, but based on the realities and the culture of how we develop have been developing St. Maarten, so that the people of St. Maarten, those with ancestral history, can tap into funds that the Dutch government has earmarked for them in a grant. I'm not talking about reparation. I'm talking about what's in our hand right now that we can develop St. Maarten with. Am I ready to take a lead in that? Yes, I am, because I know what I'm talking about, because I've done my homework. I've done a lot of homework with Wendell, spoken to a lot of professionals who are willing to help. But I know exactly the step that has to be taken if the powers that be that has the funds in their hands would sit and say, how are we going to do this? Because It was just to just say that the money is yes, and Martin use the money, but then you are equally responsible. You are equally responsible. The people of St. Martin.
So how does the project work? It has to go through government, or as as a foundation, you do whatever is necessary as far as background,
Government,
and then you submit it to who?
Government has its part to play. So let's say in this case the Ministry of Education, Culture, and so forth, through their minister, they are responsible for the funds that are reserved for the governments of all of these countries of the kingdom. So that's the responsibility of government. I'm not talking about the government, not because the governments and the ministers, and they will take care of their part. I'm talking about the other half of the 50% that is available for organizations, foundations, etc., who can tap in. And what is being said is that no, just go online, and follow the procedures there. And you're telling St. Maarten people to just go online and they can tap in, and they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna. It's not gonna work. Not in this time that we're in right now. Maybe in the next 20, 50 years, because we're not that far advanced. We're not even as far advanced as the Netherlands or even Curacao. And Curacao has more. They have more experts than us. But we need to understand that we still need to have a combination of whether we want to do it online and having an office here where the people of St. Maarten, these organizations, can go and they can knock on the door and say, what can I do to qualify? I have this project, I have this idea, I have this dream, I have this vision. This is what I would want to do. And then there are people there who are paid to the funds vendor, and they will say, okay, we will help you to write your project.
Yes.
So let's say 5% of the money that goes to them is paid to a consultant. He writes the project, so then they qualify, and then the other 95% goes to them to get their project done. That's as simple as it goes.
Are you willing to assist anybody who have a project? You yourself?
Absolutely. But it's, again, the funds are available and people have to be paid. Yeah. And I, in my position, working in the Capital Ministry of Finance, I want to steer and guide to it in the direction, because I know the people on the ground, professionals like myself, who would love to help,
but
they would love them. They would make them their profession available to assist, but they have to be spoken to. I just used the example the NRPB with Claret Connor. Yeah. You go to Claret has his team and they get the projects done. For example, in the case of the trust fund, the same thing has to happen here with Wendell. We have to quickly put, let's say, a professional petit comité or whatever you want to call it, quickly, and say, listen, if we have so much millions of euros available for St. Maarten, you take 5% of it. We did it with the World Bank. Put 5% available, and so we can reserve 500,000 guilders or so that can pay the professional St. Maartens who can write the projects, and that so that the people of St. Maarten are able to, the foundation are able to tap in to the 3 or 5 million that is available there. That's how it's done, but it's not being done like that.
How long these funds are available for? Because I do know that after a certain time, it's withdrawn because these monies are budgeted.
Yeah, it's over a 3-year period. I just mentioned that in the beginning of the program, 2025 to 2028.
Okay.
So between 2025 and 2028, they have and there are so many different funding opportunities in the Netherlands itself that we don't know, that we don't tap in because we don't know. Yeah. And then also so discouraging because we don't know how either. But these funds they have a start date, and let's say they can run for 3 months. You have to tap in that 3 months time to do the project because they're small. And then it comes to another fund, then another fund. But what I'm saying is that we have a period from now until 2028. So if we're going to look at today, February 25th, 2026, we got 2 years more to get going. What is the next step? Next step is let's inventorize what are the programs out there, when are they going to become available, how much money is going to become available, how can we tap into these funds, who can we make available as professionals to start to assist the people of St. Maarten, the foundations and whatever, and the organizations, so that they can tap into. You have young people, you have sports organizations, they need balls, they need bat, they need this, they need uniform, they need whatever. and this person need a wall fixed in there. Because
Are you saying sports can fit into this?
listen, everything, I'll tell you this, being in this being in this profession, the way how you motivate your project,
Yes.
you can sell.
Determine how
Yes.
well it would
So if
be
you
funded.
write the document in such a way that it enhances or it promotes. Let's say if you want to talk about sports, or just being creative, and you say you would like to tap into this, but because you want to get, let's say, old veteran retired baseball players or who would want to train these young people. That's all empowerment. That's all nation building. That all goes to the past, to the present, and to the future in developing
So
our
that
people.
can be a project.
So you could create it. It's just being how you put it
Present
on,
it,
how you present it in writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you say in Dutch, je bent niet beperkt.
Yeah.
So you create it, be creative about it, to tap into the conditions or the areas earmarked, because you spoke about awareness. When I say awareness to you, Wendell, how can you feel that it is so broad?
Yeah.
If I talk about museums,
existence.
if I talk about past initiatives, it is so broad. So anything can fill in there. Once you write and motivate the project file in the way that it needs to be, that the funders
Funding
will
is
say,
available.
yes, approve, and we'll fund it.
We talk about the slavery wall. I'm going to use that to.
But I don't
come
want to
full
start a
circle.
slavery wall. I just use that because it's a quick thing, because you go all over, you see St.Maarten slavery wall, but you have the museums, you
Yeah,
have
but
the
some
libraries,
people
you have books,
some
you have...
people wouldn't mind being involved, especially when they're paid
No,
to be able to rebuild these walls.
Listen, this reciprocity or whatever, what you call the jollification, those days are over.
Everybody
Everybody,
need to be
Wendell,
paid, yes.
you need to understand that you have to pay people for their service.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, St.Maarten deserves better, the people of St.Maarten deserves better than that. If there are funds available,
Yes.
it's good for the St.Maarten people to be able to tap into the funds and not do it for free.
What about Fort Amsterdam? That looks like a project that somebody can come up with the idea of doing some reconstruction of.
No, that's another topic by itself, because that Fort Amsterdam is property, is private property. So
Wasn't it that turned back over to government?
That's a whole. I want to keep it very simple, Wendell. Keep it a small project for the small people. I talking about tapping into opportunities for the small man, not big projects that are going to cost millions, and that only one or two entities can benefit from. And then what about the masses? You want to make sure that the masses in you have community councils. If I want to do a project in Middle Regional or in Dutch Quarter or in St. Peter's or Salty Water, Coal Bay, they are community councils. I'm just using an example. You go to the community council, they have a president. And Mr. President, what project can we do in Coal Bay? I'll use an example. Are cemeteries not monuments?
Yeah.
Huh? Does our cemeteries not need repairs? There are families who have the bodies, the remains of their family, they're sitting there. They can't afford to even fix the graves. You go in there, you see the graves all broken with hurricanes, broken into, and the families can't afford to repair the graves. This can all...
It's a small project.
These are all projects, Wendell.
Yeah, you got the idea. So
Of course I have the
fact
idea.
is you're sharing it.
Yes.
All right.
And I'll tell you this. BZK, the office on Front Street, knows about a proposal that was presented to their office last year.
That's the Department of Interior Affairs and Kingdom Relations.
That's right, on the Front Street in the convent building. They know of a foundation that presented a program and a vision for the whole aspect of nation building and slavery past and all that. They say, we are willing to be a sort of a overkoepelende orgaan, an umbrella body to help, to guide, to bring the professionals together in whatever area, archaeologists or consultants or this, that, and that. We will, and the funding that we will manage under your supervision, we will pay the people in the community who we know have the ability to do whatever we want to do with the program. We pay them, and then they carry the projects through whatever organizations.
Yeah.
So it's all mapped out. It's all mapped out to be done. So there is no reason, and even after this program, and like I dare say this, there is no excuse for us to say we can't tap into the funds, and let's not talk about it's online, so you just tap it online. No. It's not gonna help our St. Maarten people. So let's forget about that. Let's come on the ground. Let's put an office somewhere in some area in the neighborhoods. Let's go to the people of St. Maarten. Let's tell them what we have for them, and let's help them to be able to help themselves. That was about not the way we are doing it now and say we have it available.
Yeah.
And then it goes to another island, another country.
Let's segue to something quickly because time is running away from us. You have just been appointed to the board of USM.
Yes. I'm one of the new members of the supervisory board of the University of St.Maarten. Mm-hmm. For a matter of fact, the University of St.Maarten has 2 boards. In one, you have the board that represents the academic aspect of the board of the university, means the educational, the higher learning development and stuff like that. And then you have the endowment board. I'm part of the endowment board, the other board members, and we are part of sort of like a holding board of the university where we are responsible for planning and development and expansion of the future of the university, the institution.
Yes.
So we are then. So I'm on that board. I'm a member of that board where we are responsible for the direction of the University of St.Maarten. Okay. And we have been sitting already, and under the chairmanship of our chair lady, Madame Valerie Richardson Boniflet. She's the chair lady. She's one responsible, and under her we have 9 board members who are now sitting right now, and we have a new group of young professionals, doctors and so that are under PhD. When I say doctor, I mean PhD and educated people, engineers and all of that, who are part of this USM board, are bringing a new drive, a new spirit, a new vision, new focus, because we're looking at the region, we're looking at what's happening in the United States, we're looking at the fact that how the world is evolving, and that but we want to keep our young people in the Caribbean region more so than sending them out. We're looking at not just having government alone having to fund us, but looking at other creative ways of looking at ways to develop additional revenues so that we are able to tap into things like that. And that's something that under the directorship, leadership of the chair lady, we will have definitely some press conferences and releases on that, so that she will be able to unveil the vision of the university going on. But I can say that there is a new breeze as far as the USM is concerned with this board. This board right now, and where we are going, I can tell you that it's going in the right direction. So I can say there's a lot of hope for the young people of St. Maarten when it comes to higher learning, equivalent to anywhere in the Caribbean or in the world, for a matter of fact.
They were supposed to make some amendments to a law proposal for tertiary education at the university. Where is that? Do you know if they have finalized that? And
I don't want to. I wouldn't want to go into the details on that, because I'm not here in that capacity.
Yeah.
But right now, on management and board level, there's a lot of discussions as far as all of that is concerned. So I leave that to the chair, as well as management and those who are appointed to speak on behalf of the University of St. Maarten to give that information when the time comes.
Yeah, because such an institution is so very, very valuable, and as a nation,
of course,
building a nation, one of the things that we need to have,
all nation building,
at least a university that we can make use of when it comes to that development.
Is the focus, and that is why when you talk about all of that, Wendell, for me as an architect, as a project planner and a developer, and someone with vision, we here in Phillipsburg, the Greater Phillipsburg, we call it Greater Phillipsburg, talking about the whole area around the pond and all that. We are always doing little projects. Everybody's doing a little project. I don't work like that. I envision for us, because we Dutch St. Maarten, the southern side. I talk about Dutch St. Maarten. I always map St. Maarten out in front of me, and I look at it from a helicopter view, and I look at everything, and I try to put all of the pieces in perspective to create the picture of the puzzle. You understand what I'm saying? And in that, I'm saying we have the University of St. Maarten, we have Ring Road, we have the pond, we have whatever here in the area. How do we tie them together? We have the traffic situation, we have all of that. How do we comprehensively develop St. Maarten?
You just mentioned traffic there. I wanted to get your view on what we are faced with at this present moment when it comes to the traffic.
I'm glad you brought it up, Wendell. For a matter of fact, and that's why I have to do what I have to do as a St. Martiner before I leave this earth, and that is to make my contribution. And so when it comes to I wrote an article on the traffic crisis, and I sent it to the Daily Herald. I expect that it should be printed tomorrow. Published tomorrow in the Daily Herald. And why I'm doing these things, because it is for a few reasons. Because of love for my country, want to protect and make sure that we develop our country in the right direction, and also to protect our economic development as well as our people in terms of the vulnerability of who we are and where we are geographically, and how competitive the world and the Caribbean is now, that our economy doesn't have to suffer because of us not having a comprehensive approach to all of these things. And then traffic is a problem for the people. And I wrote an article on that, and the article speaks for itself. I want you to look at it when you read in Daily Herald tomorrow. Read it. And it's
sure that's going to be published tomorrow?
Well, they said it's going to be published, but even if it's not published tomorrow, it's going to be published one of these days. They got it already from me, and if it's not published in Daily Herald, I'm going to get it out there. Because I've written it in detail. I didn't leave it for chance for anyone to have to fill in the blanks. I wrote it in detail as to how to move forward with it in terms of the vision. And I even I not called out. I said that our leaders, I even said our prime minister, I believe that our prime minister should take the lead on that, and our president on the French side should take the lead in that, in terms of bringing the stakeholders, whether it's government, whether it is the private sector, the business sector, or whether it is the SHTA, whether it is the talking about the traffic, whether it is everyone who commute the roads. I talk about the car dealerships, I talk about the car rental companies, I talk about heavy equipment operators, I talk about the police force, I talk about all areas coming together in a sort of a mini summit and come say, what is the problem? How do we remedy the problem? And out of that, we come together, we go to our different institutions, agree on how we're going to approach it, coming out of this mini summit, that we can establish a memorandum of understanding between North and South St. Maarten. So we come together, we say, this is how this is what we agreed upon on paper. And we establish that so that no collectivity or no parliament or no government of St. Maarten has to separately come with any type of proposal. But out of this summit, all of the stakeholders will say, these are the points of departure as to how we move forward. And then each government or institution can inherit it from their perspective and then fill in what their responsibilities are. And that's the way how you approach this. That's comprehensive development. That is vision.
Well, I hear you, but I heard from one of the councilmen from the French part of the island as well, who felt that the lack of dialogue between both sides is what is helping to create some of this congestion that is become very much uncontrollable. But what you're doing, because what I've seen is that all the attempt and complaint and the bottleneck itself that is exposed, and I do know they have some on the French part of the island as well, but we are feeling it the most over here. Therefore, it seems like only us in the South that are realizing we got to find a solution quickly. And we take it into consideration where the Prime Minister mentioned about the amount of cars on the island and the amount of roads we have. And nothing was mentioned at all about the North. which
You can't, since
which
St. Maarten
is
one
part
island,
of
Wendell.
what helping
Yes.
with the congestion. So
It's one island.
again,
Wendell,
This is
let me
not
put it this
easy.
way, Wendell, you know, I am not discouraged in any way. I am hopeful, and I can tell you, it has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna end on this note because I know you're out of time, right? I'm gonna give you a story of way back. We talk about the Israel with the Jews. The Jews was up against an enemy. Our enemy right now is the traffic. Their enemy was the Philistines with Goliath. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't defeat this Goliath, but it took a David. A David stepped up and he said, "I will go and fight the Goliath." And you know what happened? He slew Goliath.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes the initiative of one person or people to step up and say, "I will do it. I will slay this Goliath." And that's how it happens, and that's how change happens, Wendell.
And I gotta let that be the final word for
Thank
now.
you.
And I want to thank you so much for taking the time, though, and have this conversation, both about the slavery past initiatives and the monies that are made available, as well as your views on some of the other things that are affecting us as an island. All right, thank you so much, Akhil.
Thank you, Wendell.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
All right. That's it, folks. It's time for us to head over to the news. So thank you so much for listening. Those of you who are with us, we invite you to come back and join us next Wednesday. Take care, guys. Goodbye.